Joyous greetings, family. This is Joel Vivid, aka Aina, here with you again in this time space talking numerology. For those who are here for the first time, I welcome you to my channel. Glad to have you here. As usual, I'm taking a minute to say thank you to all of my ancestral bloodline who have put in the work, who have paved the way for me, that I might sit here in this time space and do my work now as I consolidate my experience here in this time space and also shine a light for those who are yet to come. So, we have been going through the life paths. We went through some general stuff on numerology, and we've been going through the root numbers of these life paths, and we're at number 3 today. But I just want to say first, before specifically getting into life path 3, I want us to become aware of the fact that numbers were not created by humans, right? Numbers are labels attached to certain frequencies that are encoded in nature. These frequencies are encoded in nature. Remember, we said that everything that is vibrates, and that everything that vibrates at its unique frequency, which allows us to recognize it or identify it as itself, so that a tree has a particular frequency of vibration which allows us to identify it as being a tree and nothing else. A cup, same thing. Humans, same thing. Alright, so that we have a frequency that we're able to identify us as who we are. That's in a general sense. And getting more specific, as individuals, we each carry our unique frequency so that one person could be identified from another. So that these codes are in nature, right? They are embedded in nature, and so humans didn't invent that. What humans did is to put tags or labels on those frequencies so that they could have a better handle of dealing with them. Alright, so that they recognize the frequencies that are in nature and they put labels on them, which we call numbers, so that they better be able and it will be easier also for them to deal with and work with those numbers. So they knew what number 1, they attach that to a particular set of frequencies, number 2, and so on. So what we do in numerology is simply to work with the numbers that are encoded in your birth information to find out, to detect what frequencies you came here with, you present with, and with that awareness, work towards, with that awareness, not just the frequency you come with the awareness of what those frequencies mean, to be able to put those things together, those bits of information together, so that we can work towards guiding you to put together the best life that you can and have the best life experience that you can. Now, I always emphasize that numerology is not about fortune telling. All right. So when I say to guide you, I mean with the numerologist's best experience, to give you an idea of what are some of the characteristics or some of the traits associated with that number, and some of the advantages, disadvantages, along the way, things that it would be helpful for you to develop, things that you need to be careful of, and that kind of thing. But the final choices belong to the individual. All right, this is why it can never really be about fortune telling. What it is, what it definitely does, is guide you into a deeper and better sense of self, so that you're operating on a stronger footing. You're not operating by guess, all right, and by things just happen just so. You're operating on a stronger footing, and you have a central focal point from which you can radiate. And given humans, we never really go straight down any road. So even though you're going to bear, of course, at some point in time, for whatever your reasons are, you know where home is. You know where it's safe to come back to reset and start again. So that is the whole, my focus and my approach to emerging. I don't tell anybody that I'm going to tell them fortune, because I can't. All right. So this is the whole basis of where I work from. And let's get into number 3. So if you have done your calculations and you recognize yourself as having that life path number, you are on course to becoming a good communicator, an excellent communicator, as a matter of fact. All right. You have the best of the one and the two. The one and the two are the parent numbers. The one is the masculine energy, the 2 the feminine energy, and the 3 is what is produced from the 1 and the 2. Right? So the person carrying the 3 is like the child of the parent 1 and 2. Excuse me. So they have the best of those two, but they are of a different breed, so to speak. It's like giving birth to a child, and even the child has to make its own voice. The child has to make its own way. The child has to do things in its own way. So number 3 is about saying, look at me. This is what I am about. All right. So number 3 draws attention to itself, unlike the 2. Number 3 draws attention to itself and says what it has and expresses its voice, in its own way. So that's what number 3 is about. Number 3 is one of the 2 numbers in the numerical lineup that, in my opinion, is a mover and a shaker. All right, and they are really dynamic. They're extroverts. They go outside and they do things. Look at how the 3. I like to look at how the numbers are formed. So in your mind, remember how a 3 is. A 3 goes out and comes back in, and then goes out and comes back in. So it's an action number. It belongs to somebody who is moving and is growing and is thinking and is doing, So someone who is on the life path 3 normally is they like engaging environments. They like things to challenge them, so that they could find new ways of doing things, and they could think out things, and they don't really, what is just already there, tried and tested and proven, that doesn't interest them so much, because they want new things. They want to explore. They want to grow, and they want to challenge themselves, to see how far they could go, what they could do, what they could be. So that's the kind of energy that the number 3 is all about. And so, as I said, they like environments that would challenge them. They like the arts as well, because of the whole thing about being able to express. So you find them a lot as poets, dancers, sculptors, anything that would help them bring out their voice. That's what number three is about. They they are quite charming. They are people. They they like to be among people. They're very jovial and joyful and that kind of thing. So quite often they would be the life of the party kind of way. Um, yeah. So they like to have people around them, and they are quite charming in themselves. So they don't have a problem having friends. They people radiate towards them because they're that kind of person. Um, Number three, though, one of the things that they need to look at and probably work with is that they're all about expressing and going out there and blooming and going, but they're not structuring things. So it would be to their benefit to try to to solidify some of the things that they're doing, because and not just go out there and do without planning and thinking and without having a set goal and objective. So number three needs to kind of look at that. Also, they could, as many of the other numbers, they could stretch themselves too thin. But number three, there's so much about living and just being open. They are open individuals that sometimes they can stretch themselves. They can get involved in too many things and stretch themselves thin, and then you suffer from a commitment crisis because you're committed to this, to that, and to the next thing. And so they've got to look at that. Another thing number three is need to be mindful of is the mouth. Now they're good at communication, really good at communication, but sometimes they, just like a child would just say what comes into their head, sometimes number three does just that. So they don't censor what they say, they just feel something and as people would say, they tell it like it is, and sometimes it could be really hurtful to those who even those they care about. So it would be mindful if they could get some of that true energy and some of that diplomatic energy. It would really be helpful. So they're good, they're outgoing and that kind of thing, but they need to guard against that being too coarse. Let me say coarse at times, and as I said, overcommitting themselves and that kind of thing. And they would need to work also on putting some structure in their lives so that people who are parenting threes, they may be able to help them with things like that in terms of help them to set goals, like for instance, if you have a child as a three and they interested in, let's say, music, let's say they play an instrument, maybe you could get them involved in getting into a competition of some sort, not with the goal necessarily to win, but just so that they're going to have to structure rehearsals and so around that to achieve that goal of being part of that competition. So it starts to help them to put structure in place. Yes, you're exploring your talent, but you're putting structure in place. And of course, as we said, they like things to engage them. So as a parent of a three, you would need to expose that child to as many forms of art and culture as possible, and see where their gift is, because they have a gift. Trees have a gift to share with the world, so they need to be able to discover what that is. So expose them to as many of those talents and skills and arts and that kind of thing as you can. And as I said, help them in terms of the structure. If you could help them, there's a big if you could help them in terms of recognizing that sometimes the harshness of their words could hurt people, that would be good too, in helping them to self-censor, you know. So basically, though that's the three. Something else I wanted to mention about the three. Okay, you lose me right now, but it'll come back to me in a minute. The trees, as I said, they're outgoing, they are friendly, they are people, and they like things to challenge them and make them bring out from inside who they are, because they know they're smart, and they know they're smart, and they enjoy showing you, displaying their smartness to the world, you know, in any form that it would take. So as I said, they're one of the movers and shakers, and trees are like trees, you know, they like to grow, and they like to bloom, and they like to be, you know, and they like to tower above the rest of us too, you know. So there's a lot we can learn from them if we're lucky enough to have trees around us. And as I said, this is what I was going to say just now. Sometimes, as per all the other numbers, I may be talking about you being a good communicator and all that, and you may be really, really shy at this point in time. I may be talking about you having this great gift to share with the world, and you may be like, what? I don't care, you know, but you do. And what you need to recognize is just that you're not on that point or at that point of recognizing as yet. So some more growth needs to take place. Alright? But never you mind, we all growing and we all learning. So you're gonna have to find ways. If you're an adult, expose yourself to new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, new ways of maybe new ways of self-expression. So it's about growth. It's a path. It's a life path, and it takes a lifetime for us to acquire even enough of the positives of our numerical vibrations to then apply it in life. All right. So it's a big step to just work in numbers and see where you're at. See where you're at on that spectrum, because it's a broad spectrum. It's from negative to positive, and you could be anywhere. If you're on the negative side, you probably won't even recognize some of the things that I'm talking about. But it means that you need to move up, move on, recognize, and work towards building that capacity. All right. So when we get our root numbers, those who don't see themselves is because, as I said, you're at a place where you have to push out from still. And a lot of the times, things that are opposed to where we need to go happen to us. As I said, you're to be a communicator, you might be shy. All right? You have to bring yourself out of that shyness and into that ability, develop that ability to communicate. Knowing your life path number doesn't make your life easier. Alright, as a matter of fact, it can make it more difficult, because now you have the information, you have to work it. But what it does, it makes your life more focused, more intentional living. And so it beats being ignorant anytime. Alright? So I hope that you have found this discussion interesting. anything I always say that you feel you need more clarification on, please drop a comment there for me. And if you like the video, like it. If you think it could help anybody who is on the road, please share it with them. And you can also subscribe to the channel so that when future videos come out, you will be notified. Alright, so again, I leave you as I've come with the blessings of my ancestors and all those other universal light healing energies that continue to shine with me, support me, and bless me. For the prayer, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.